This podcast is brought to you by Most Valuable Podcasts, saving your day from boredom with the best podcasting entertainment.
What's up, Real MVPs, Ricky Widmer here, along with fellow Manchild, Johnny Karlic. And we are back for another edition of the Rick and Johnny podcast right here on Most Valuable Podcast. This is where we go ahead and talk about everything under the two nerdy suns. Yeah, I got it. I don't want to talk over the whistles because I feel like in past episodes I've talked over.
I was kind of hoping you would because I don't want people to
whistles.
actually hear it. It's supposed to be like in the background.
Johnny's like, I'm kind of doing it while Ricky's talking, but we got a jam-packed show for you guys today. Actual double podcast day is we're going to have our Glass review coming out also, and this will not be like the Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse where I said we were going to have that and then we ended up not being able to do that. This is not going to be a fake out. We will have our Glass review as well. But today, Johnny, we got a Spider-Man Far From Home trailer. We finally get to see it. We're going to break it down, tell you what we think about it. Then we're going to take a look at another new trailer we got, kind of a teaser trailer for the new Ghostbusters movie. Take a look at that. Also take a look at why Leslie Jones is kind of upset about the new Ghostbusters movie.
Goosebusters.
And then the Goosebusters. And then we are going to end things out with a little good old Game of Thrones. But before we get into everything, make sure to check out patreon.com/Most Valuable Podcast. That is where you guys can call in and be on the podcast. $10 tier. You can vote on some topics at the $5 tier. You get an exclusive Patreon podcast at the $1 and $2 tier. So go ahead and check that out down below because we cannot do what we do each and every week without the support of our wonderful, great, fantastic patrons. But Johnny, let's move on. Let's get started with everything.
Yeah.
As we're going to talk about Spider-Man Homecoming, and this is a trailer you and I have kind of talked about already. We got a text read through when this trailer was shown at Brazil Comic-Con. I'm just going to ask you right up front, overall thoughts of the trailer now that we actually get to see it with our own two eyes.
I'm actually very excited about a lot of this. I don't know I'm trying to think where to start.
And that's the same with me. Why I threw it to you. I was like, there's so much in here. Let's start at the very beginning. And this is kind of the question that people have had is the interesting thing about this trailer is they don't want to give up anything about Avengers Endgame.
Yeah.
How much, like, the film is supposed to start moments after Avengers Endgame. Do you think there will be a time jump at all between the beginning of the movie and what we see at the beginning of the trailer where Peter's getting ready for his trip?
Days, maybe. Maybe a week or two, because like, yeah, it takes a little bit of time to plan a trip, but like maybe like shortly, it's gonna be like shortly after, because it's gonna be like the cleanup of everything. It doesn't look like there's a whole lot that's been down the drain already. Everything is like, and not that there's a ton of, like, it doesn't seem like there's gonna be a ton of time spanning between what happened in Infinity Wars and what's going to happen in Endgame and then into Spider-Man. Doesn't look like there's going to be a ton of time in between all of those.
I think that they've said like a couple months maybe at the most.
Yeah.
Between Infinity War.
And that doesn't really leave a lot of like stuff to like fall in.
Enough time for Tony Stark to be at the end of his rations, basically.
Yes. That is supposed to be, that could take like just weeks, not even months.
True. Or like
depends
a
on,
month.
It could take like a month. It could take a few weeks.
Yeah.
It could take 2 months. It depends on how many rations were there and how much oxygen it holds.
And they've only got 2 mouths to feed.
Exactly. So, and then if they thought about rationing right off the bat, then there you go. The
interesting thing to me, though, with Spider-Man Far From Home is, and I've got the trailer just on loop here. If you guys haven't seen it, what are you doing? First off, I'll put it down below in the description. But there's the part where he looks at his suit in the closet and goes, no, Europe doesn't need a friendly neighborhood Spider-Man. Do you think that is because, like, a lot of what I'm seeing is, oh, that's probably because of all the events that went on in Endgame
he's
and
like,
Infinity War.
Kind of in the back of his head saying,
I need a vacation.
I need a break from being Spider-Man, especially since you just got turned into dust.
You were gone and now you're back.
Yeah. I couldn't imagine what kind of toll that would take, for one. So, I mean, yeah, it's like I wouldn't blame him for like looking at the suit and just closing the closet. Even actually pauses before he closes his suitcase again, like to think again about it.
However, I did see there's a different version, I believe. There's two that are out there where like TSA agent is like checking a suitcase and he opens it and there's the Spider-Man suit just sitting there in his suit, like Aunt May basically, hey, you forgot this, and shoved it in there. And the TSA agent is just like, you can't have this. And it's basically like a bottle of water or something. And he goes, yeah, I'm sorry. Basically, it's like the Spider-Man suit is staring at you and you have no questions about it.
Probably not.
I'm just a weird cosplayer at this point.
Yeah.
And I really like Spider-Man.
I mean, you never know.
What is one thing with this that you are really excited about moving forward?
Mysterio.
That's okay. I didn't know how quickly you wanted to jump to the very end because we only get Mysterio at the end of the trailer.
I guess so. But like, it's cool. Let's jump into something else before we really hit on Mysterio. There's like two separate Spider-Man suits that we're gonna get now. One looks like his sort of average one, but it's black and red.
Yeah, at least that's what to the original, like the original suit from the comics, where it was more red and black compared to red and blue.
Well, it had to be red and black in the comics, and they used the blue for shadowing, and then it ended up being more blue than black, so that's how it switched over. But no, yeah, they got that one, and then there's the stealth suit one that looks like it's literally he's a shield agent, which is another
or a sword agent. Like there are certain
we don't
people
necessarily know if we have rights to that by then.
There are certain people that are like, there's a little portion on that shoulder plate that could really fit a sword logo if they wanted to. Here's the
thing. So yeah, the movie comes out after July, right?
July 7th or 8th.
And we talked about in another podcast where we're supposed to get rights to Fox by March, sometime in March. I don't know if there's necessarily enough time to do all any retakes to put the word sword in there, where Nick Fury has probably already said shield in this movie,
he might not have said anything.
He may not have said shield at all. In that case, I don't know if they would put the logo for sword on there right away, unless they're going to actually introduce sword in the movie.
So Johnny, I almost got really scared.
Why?
Because this year, VidCon got moved.
Really?
Usually it's like the end of June, and like last year it was like, oh well, the Transformers movie came out that time.
Yeah.
So that movie got screwed. This year it's in July. And for a second, I had a panic attack of like, oh my God, is it going to be the same weekend as Spider-Man? Because obviously I will be in California. You will be back here in Chicago. Good news, Spider-Man Far From Home comes out July 5th. VidCon's the next week. Okay. So it's basically Spider-Man, VidCon. Then Ricky leaves for VidCon. But yeah, with me, the Mysterio thing was like, oh my God, this is awesome.
Yeah.
Especially like the first time you see him and the line he delivers is like, oh my God, I'm going to like Mysterio. Also, the thing I'm going to throw out there is this is something I said and I'll probably, if I haven't already, had it pop up above Johnny of our conversation where we talked about Sword possibly being introduced. We mentioned in there about Marvel and the MCU going more cosmic.
Yeah.
And the one thing I threw out is, what if Mysterio tricks Nick Fury into thinking he's a cosmic entity or a cosmic hero, kind of like we see in Doctor Strange.
Yeah.
But then he has that villainous turn where it's like everything just goes to shit, and then he is battling Spider-Man at the end. Based off of what I've seen, I still believe that, because the green beams, the green everything with what's coming out of his hand, I'm like, oh my God, it looks like Doctor Strange. It looks like Mysterio saw footage of Doctor Strange during Infinity War and was like, I can do that. I can make that effect with my hands so that they think I'm using the same mystic powers as Doctor Strange.
Like he looks his powers and even like sort of the suit look like a combination of, well, maybe not the suit so much. The powers though, for sure look like a mixture of Doctor Strange and Iron Man because he's flying around.
Because he's coming out of the hands.
It's coming out of the hands, but it's also like he's flying around, and it looks like it's almost like it's being hidden. However, he's flying with the smoke around his feet and the green smoke, but then it's like coming out of his hands. It's like half laser beam, sort of like Iron Man, and half smoke. And if you look, also like there's different points where one time it's just straight out of his hands, like this pyramid out of each hand, and there's one time. It'll loop around it again for a second for me. It's like all the full like Doctor Strange circle in front of him and a big beam. So like it's interesting how it looks like a combo. Yeah. What I'm interested to see is when he gets the fishbowl.
The shield looks like the circle one.
Yeah.
So what it looks like to me, because I rewinded it, is when he shoots out the beam, they're triangles.
Yeah.
But when he's fighting, and here's another thing, is he fighting Hydro Man or is he just fighting an elemental? We'll get into that in a second. When that fist comes in, the circle is like a shield where he's using that to defend. And if you stop it at that point, we do have the fishbowl. When he flies in to...
Yeah, he does have it on.
To face Hydro Man, he's got the fishbowl on.
Yeah, I did see that now.
Which I did notice the first time, and I'm like, oh my God, I know it's small. It looks baller to see the fishbowl. Like just seeing him when he flies in on the cloud, like, I'm like, oh my God, that's what Mysterio looked like. That is the costume that I would expect for a Mysterio character.
No, Marvel did a great job on portraying Mysterio in the MCU. I love how it looks. I love the whole aspect so far. And I'm wondering if, I know you called it elemental. I wonder if it's his own, like...
Well, and that's what I wanted to get into, is because the theory is...
Yeah.
Here's the theory, is that because we see different elementals. Like, the one at the end with the water is different, because we've heard rumors that there's going to be some different villains in the movie. There's going to be, we've heard Hydro Man. I think we've heard, is it like Volcano Man or something? Basically, he's got volcanic like powers, and we see an elemental like that in here. We also see like a rock elemental. What people are kind of thinking is that these elementals are special effects by Mysterio.
Yeah.
To kind of make it seem like, I am what I really am.
I am a hero.
Yeah, basically, I can help you guys out here. The only question is, for me, I'm kind of thinking, what if it was like, okay, the first two they fight, yeah, those were Mysterio elementals. What if that water one really is Hydro Man?
True.
And Mysterio's like, oh, I can do this, and then goes, oh, no, I can't. I cannot. This is not one of mine, and that's where they basically find out, hey, you're a fraud. You've been duping us. You've been duping Spider-Man. You've really been duping Nick Fury this whole time.
Yeah. That's actually what I was going to say earlier was, what if those are all his, except maybe like you said, 50-50 on Hydro Man. Maybe it is his, maybe it isn't. Cause that one, it almost seems like he swoops in and saves the day.
Yeah.
But I mean, that's all effects from the trailer. So who knows?
But how he does it too is like, yeah, you got a point. How he comes in, has that superhero line, and then flies right in.
Yeah, exactly.
Unless they just cut it up that way.
They could have cut it up that way.
When he drops in,
yeah,
who knows? He might not even be fighting Hydro Man.
When he dropped in, you see all the destruction behind him. It could be when he was fighting that rock elemental or the sand or whatever.
Yes.
So that's my thought, is that those are his. Now the other thing I'm starting to think is, what if he's like, yeah, they're doing like a special effects prop thing. What if he does sort of have some of the powers that Doctor Strange has? Like, what if some of it is sort of magic, because those are pretty pretty harsh special effects to be special effects, especially out in the open. So what if they and I get Marvel's going to take liberties like that, so what if it's like not like as powerful as Doctor Strange, but he dabbled in something not knowing it's like Doctor Strange necessarily, and that's how he got his like such high acclaim in props and effects.
Go more the Iron Man route with that.
Okay.
What I think it might be is I don't think they're going to give him mystic powers or like he dabbled in these mystic powers.
Yeah.
What I think it's going to be
Just high tech.
Basically, like maybe he found some Shatari tech before everything got wiped out with Spider-Man Homecoming, and he used that within his special effects, and that's how he's able to make them like actual beams. Is like maybe like in his gloves or those vanguards that he has, van braces that he has around his arms. Maybe that has some Shatari tech in there.
Yeah, I was saying more so making those other elementals if it's not actual characters.
I mean, maybe it's for that. It's just like lighting tricks. That's what I would think of. Where it's like not like hey, I can put my hand through it like Scooby Doo. Yeah. But I think it's like high tech.
It could be, yeah, very like high tech something or another.
Because especially if that water elemental one is staged by him, of course he's gonna fly in and he can have it all choreographed out. Like, yeah,
true.
Oh, it's supposed to hit me and I'm supposed to defend myself, but then I push back and it's all mapped out already. All
that's true.
Down.
So yeah,
scripted is the word I'm looking for.
So I'm intrigued to see how they're gonna play out those as if they are his own effects and how he's done them. But no, I think that would be a really cool dynamic to have him like tricking everyone, Fury and everyone else, just to see how that plays along, because that would make sense for Mysterio, and then finally flip him over to the villain side and maybe end of Act 2.
Yeah, before we go into
the final act and make Spider-Man actually have to go up against him.
And the thing I'm looking up is because Hydro Man was one of them, and like I said, I thought there was one more that people had said might be in there. Let's see. Okay, so this is from an IGN article. The Elementals and Hydro Man, origin and background. So arriving from a distant universe and establishing their own kingdom here before running afoul of a place called Egypt, the vanquished Elementals, Hydron Water, Magnum Earth, Hellfire, and Zephyr Air Wind, spent the rest of their Marvel Comics career trying to gain control of a MacGuffin called the Ruby Scarab, sometimes with the enslaved Nakantu, the living mummy, as muscle. At one point, Zephyr switched sides, and still later, Miss Marvel found herself in the middle of another attempt to wrest control of the Scarab from other hands. So that's kind of what. Let's see here. Oh, that's Sandman. Okay, because that's them saying that some people thought that the rock elemental that we saw could be like a Sandman, and them saying no, that's not Sandman. But what people are saying is that it could be, hey, those are elementals. Maybe it's the elementals that I just mentioned. The other one, though, could be Hydro Man. Yet again, we don't know. They could have changed it. Hey, we're going to have Hydro Man in there. Now we're not. All we know right now is it's an elemental water, basically water elemental. But everything with Mysterio, I can't wait to see more of that. And I can't wait to see Jake Gyllenhaal as Mysterio. I want to ask you about Nick Fury.
Yeah.
And his whole involvement in this is, what do you think? Why do you think will be the reason he comes to get Spider-Man? Because he kind of surprises him, and he goes, I finally get to meet the famous Spider-Man, as he's just sitting in his hotel waiting for him and has just knocked out Ned.
No, I'm trying to think how he's going to play into it, aside from maybe trying to do the same thing he does with everyone, sort of pep talking him. Like, maybe he noticed that there's Spider-Man's disappeared for like such and such, like maybe it's been like a few days already. It's like, hey, Spider-Man's not showing up anywhere.
Yeah.
So he's like, okay, I got to track him down and see what the hell's going on. And tracks him down. And finally he's like, okay, I finally get to meet you. And then
And then they just kind of, oh, we've got problems here. And
Like,
they
hey,
just kinda
I also
team up.
I sort of have a mission for you anyways. I need you. Like, that's typical of Nick Fury. Like, Spider-Man disappears for a few days. It's like, okay, well, I got a mission for this. Or he's not. You know what? He could be keeping tabs on him anyways. So it's not like
Nick Fury's keeping tabs on everyone. John.
Exactly.
Here's the thing I don't understand with that.
So I shouldn't even say that. It's just he has a mission that Spider-Man needs to. That he needs Spider-Man for.
When it comes to the suits,
Yes.
my thought process is, let's say Aunt May does put it in the suitcase, so he does have his suit.
Yeah.
Is the black suit going to be basically Spider-Man's like, well, I can't use my suit because there's not there's too many clues that would point to who Spider-Man may be.
Yeah.
So is that where Nick Fury is going to be like, oh, I have a suit? The black suit will be the first suit he uses, and then Act 3 he gets the
Red
suit
and
that we
black.
see with the red and black, the web wings that pop out
Yeah, you know what? Maybe
when they're closer in London, because it looks like they're in Italy for a little bit. There's going to
It's
be
a
in
European
London.
trip, yeah.
They're going to be all over Europe.
Yeah, you know what? I think that would be the case because obviously it would point to like, hey, one of these kids is Spider-Man. So
Spider-Man, bring me Spider-Man.
Want more pictures of Spider-Man? Yeah,
You gotta throw a JJJ reference in there when
of course,
you can.
talking about Spider-Man, Spider-Man. Yeah, that would make sense for the change in suit because then it's like, okay, well, it's like I can't be Spider-Man here anyways. It would point out that hey, he's over this group of kids is over here. Spider-Man's here. Add it all together, and then one of these kids is Spider-Man. Blah 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 blah. But then Nick Fury can like, okay, I got a suit for you, so you don't. Or he's just like, he actually maybe that was like a teaser, and he's like, I didn't bring my suit. Oh, I got a suit for you.
And that's where,
because Marvel is all about duping us and throwing things in there that don't actually happen. Like,
well, talking about duping us, go ahead and finish what you were going to say.
I was actually going to say, like, for example, there's a theory out there that kind of ruins Endgame, stating that, oh, Tony Stark dies because one of the clues is Pepper Potts' name is on the check for the thing. It's like, yeah, but one thing you and I talked about before,
you told
she
me
runs the
this on-
foundation.
Yeah,
she runs all that stuff.
You told me that on Friday, and that was my first thought. Is like, but if she's running the foundation and
She's
everything,
gonna sign the check.
She's going to sign the check, not Tony.
You
And-
would think that maybe Tony might sign it just for like publicity shit,
I
though.
mean,
But
maybe, but like you saw, like that's not a big enough reason for me
but
to
the
think
other one,
he's dead.
and the other one was that Happy says, "You're alone now, kid."
Yeah, I mean, but that's another one where it's like
Again, and I'm just saying, Marvel's all about like
duping us, and
duping
kind
us,
of
and
pulling the wool
like,
over our eyes.
Big example, they threw Hulk.
We've been hoodwinked too many times, Johnny.
They threw Hulk into the Infinity Wars trailers to trick us,
Knowing he wouldn't be there.
knowing he wouldn't be there. They didn't have Hulk in there, but they threw him into the trailer, so we didn't know that Banner was going to have a problem turning into Hulk.
He's going to have some ED issues with Hulk, basically.
Yeah, exactly.
But two last things I kind of want to hit on, for sure. I don't know if there's anything else that you think that we haven't hit. The first one's to me, the minor one where I don't think it's going to be as long as of a conversation. The MJ conversation.
Yes.
Getting this. I absolutely love how they are now leaning into the romance, it seems like.
No,
Where
it's nice.
It looks like he is going to be with MJ because I will be completely honest. The thing I hated about the Amazing Spider-Man, the Andrew Garfield one, was I get they went with Gwen Stacy, and they probably did that to be different than the Sam Raimi who went with MJ. I'm sorry. I don't need to see Spider-Man with Gwen Stacy. I want to see him with MJ, and if there's a third wheel into the situation, Johnny, you know who I want that third wheel to be? Black Cat. That's who I want it to be. I want it to be Felicia Hardy, and that is who I want to be that third wheel.
See,
if you're going to throw one into there.
Wasn't opposed to the Gwen Stacy thing because that's actually in the comics as well.
I get it. And the next snap was comic.
And then I think it's MJ comes along after that.
But we never got there.
Yeah, we didn't.
They
Me too on this
basically
one,
were
luckily.
like, "Oh, Marvel takes over. Hey, Andrew, put
Yeah, that's why. So I
we
mean,
like this kid."
maybe in the next one they were gonna go with an MJ. Who knows? It's never gonna happen.
Yeah.
But no, we're getting. I like especially like in the I'm gonna say it's the opera or whatever they're gonna see.
I love her attitude.
I like how the dynamic of like he's stumbling over his words because he has a crush on her now is going. I think that's hilarious and typical of someone his age.
Because the thing I always liked about the dynamic between MJ and Peter is that, and we were kind of talking about this about one of our friends, is, so just to give it a real world example, is one of our friends went on a date with a girl, and you had told me he didn't pursue anything because it's kind of like he didn't feel intelligently challenged, or in some cases didn't feel like there would be pushback where, like for me,
enough that you would want.
Yeah, we're like, I'll be honest, one of my ex-girlfriends, I say this not as like a demeaning joke, but of what it was, where it felt like I was dating a puppy dog, or it was like, well, what do you want to do? Well, anything you want to do. And it was like, all right, I've got this person that just follows me with whatever I do. There's no pushback.
Yeah.
Everything I say is okay. And that's what I've always loved about the MJ Peter Parker relationship is MJ is going to challenge him. MJ is not afraid to speak her mind. And what they're doing in that opera scene already is adapting and showing us the new age MJ to the new age Spider-Man. Where our 90s Spider-Man and MJ, totally different chemistry between them. I know it's a cartoon instead of live action, but a totally different chemistry between them because the Peter Parker, yes, he was older, but how Tom Holland's Spider-Man is, how he's kind of, I'm going to say a little awkward, and he's a little bit of like, just in general, like not sure about things. He kind of feels like an actual kid at times, having that person, that sarcastic asshole, not even an asshole, just that sarcastic character of like, he says something and MJ goes, oh, because that's supposed to validate me as a person. And he goes, oh, no, it's okay. Peter, I'm just fucking with you. Like, basically, like, and I like how it's that compared to what we've seen between a Spider-Man and an MJ in Sam Raimi animated series, anything that we've watched in the past.
It's still sort of the same dynamic to a sense. He's in the way that you said, he's challenging her in a certain way, or vice versa. She's challenging him, and not in like a bad challenging way. It's like trying to keep him on his toes, make it like, I don't know how else to describe it. It's sort of a keep you on your toes. But it's lighthearted and it's fun way of challenging you.
Basically,
not a
how I
butting
see it
heads
is
constantly.
When you're stressed and that person makes a joke, that's what she's trying to relax him in a way. Like, hey, Pete, calm down. Like, you don't have to.
It's
this
flirting.
Is not a stressing thing. Yeah, kind of. It's flirting, and like. That's the whole thing I like with it. The last thing I wanted to ask you about, and this probably will be a longer conversation than that. So there's a theory going around.
Okay.
That the trailer has shown us, and I believe the spot that people are talking about is when we see Nick Fury in a building looking out. Some people say, oh, he's in Europe. Some people say, no, he's not. I want to ask you this. Two-part question. Number one, do you think in Spider-Man Far From Home we are going to see the new tenants of Avengers Tower? And if yes, who are those new tenants going to be?
Seeing as we're in Far From Home, I feel like we're not. Just because, I mean, we're not in New York. That's where our Avengers Tower is. I mean, it would be interesting if we ended up there and, like, saw that then. But I maybe in like an after credit scene or something else, but I don't think we're going to necessarily see that unless it's like, because it doesn't. We're not in New York. We're in Italy. We're in London. We're in France. Maybe even.
We're only in New York in the beginning.
Exactly.
And I don't know
And I
how
don't
brief
think-
that's going to
And
be.
they're like Marvel's not one to just kind of throw it in there like, hey, it's in the background. Here you go.
Well,
I mean,
and that's the thing.
Not
I found it
out
exactly
of nowhere.
when it's the part of the trailer when right after he's gone to the convenience store.
Yeah.
And he's swinging through. In the background,
Okay.
the building that looks like it's under construction, that's Avengers Tower.
Okay. I'm waiting to get through it and see.
That is why people are like, ooh, could we see in that scene, could we see maybe who the new tenants are? Here's what I'm thinking, and this is me. My theory hat is now on.
I would say real quick, maybe hints of it, but we're not gonna, I don't think we're actually going to see
I like your post-credit thing, and I'm going to roll with that.
Yeah, I don't think we're going to actually necessarily see the tenants. We're going to maybe see a hint towards something. Like Marvel, they'll put shit in the background.
This is what I want. Ready?
They'll Easter egg shit, but
full reveal in the post-credit scene.
That I'd be fine with.
And everybody is saying, Fantastic Four. I get it. The Marvel Fox deal or the Disney Fox deal is exciting.
It is.
But to me, there is a different tenant that I want to take over that building more so than the Fantastic Four.
And who's that?
Oscorp. Give me Norman Osborn.
That would
in
be
a
cool. That one I would definitely agree with.
Think about this. He's in Europe, right? He is disconnected from New York for a summer. A couple months is a long time.
It is
to be away from somewhere. During that time, Norman finalizing the move into Avengers Tower to where Pete comes home. It could be even at the end where Pete comes home and goes, what's Oscorp? And maybe Aunt May then explains it to him. Like, oh yeah, they're done. Not excitingly, but not negatively, because it's just a brand new company moving in, trying to change the world with their blah 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 blah.
Harry and Harry and Peter were supposed to be friends as kids. They could have been like Osborn.
True.
And then goes to Aunt May. Oscorp, is that Harry's dad's? Bob, and
Kind of like that.
Introduce,
because that's an interesting plot
it's
to this. They haven't explained
it could have been
the origin.
it could have been when they were 5. They were from 5 to 7 they were friends, and then Harry was sent to military or boarding school, especially since he's a rich kid. And that introduces.
So post credits at the end.
Yeah.
When Peter comes back, I like that idea. Let's roll with that. After the credits, day 1 of the next school year, because the next school year is going to be pretty damn close by the time they get back, I'm assuming.
Yeah, it should be close.
Who walks in?
Harry.
Now, they would have to have someone casted for Harry, which I don't think that would be plausible, but that is who I want to take over the Avengers Tower, because yes, the Fantastic Four is great. Yes, we want them eventually in the universe. But how does that help Spider-Man?
Exactly.
It doesn't. Unless you're going to play into he's joining the Fantastic Four now that the Avengers are broken up after Endgame. Unless you're going to do that. I don't see that, though.
No.
I see Spider-Man kind of being on his own as we're getting in this. Nick Fury coming to him, which also the whole Nick Fury, Tom Holland thing. The thing that I'm wondering is if we're going to get shades of Ultimate Spider-Man. The Drake from Drake and Josh, when he was Spider-Man in that cartoon.
Oh, yeah.
Where it was him and Nick Fury. I mean, of course, Nova, White Tiger, Luke Cage. No, Iron Fist.
Iron Fist and Luke Cage, technically.
Were they?
Power Man is what they called them, but yeah.
Yeah, true. They were both in there. Are we going to get a kind of developed relationship closer to what they had? Are we going to get that humor towards the end where as they get to know each other, Tom Holland is going to use his humor to kind of play back to a relationship we might have seen in Ultimate Spider-Man? That just popped into my head right now as I saw Nick Fury, because Spider-Man's going to be on his own, what better way to say, hey, we are bringing in this rogues gallery than saying, here is your Joker. Your Joker is coming to the party. However, is Marvel going to do that, or are they going to say, no, they've done the Green Goblin before, we're going to leave the Green Goblin alone?
I mean, they can do the Hobgoblin.
Just because you bring Norman into it doesn't mean you have to do the Green Goblin.
That's true, but it just
you can just have Harry and Norman there.
What you can do is just have Norman, the one that brings the group together. Is like, hey, I want Spider-Man. I want to use him like they always wanted to. They wanted his blood. They wanted to test him so they can do their whatever tests they needed to do on Spider-Man. Here's
my last question. This goes off of the theory, theorizing that we just
to finish.
Had. Yeah,
they don't need like. It doesn't need to be Norman becomes the Green Goblin to do this or whatever. It could be just, hey, I want Spider-Man so I can test and make more Spider-Man.
Do you think we'll never get the Green Goblin with Tom Holland?
I'd say
only because we didn't get an origin story, meaning because then there's a plot hole of like it all depends on how they write it. Because to me, Peter has to know about Oscorp because that's where the spider bites him.
True. That would have to be. It would have to somehow be explained of like Oscorp being rebuilt or something, or why it was never mentioned before. Because we didn't get the stereotypical, hey, spider came down, bit me, blah blah blah. We would have to have some sort of explanation of all that with Oscorp being there. Why? So Oscorp wouldn't be a mystery to him, but it would be like
a distant memory of maybe he was a younger child.
Yeah.
When he remembered, to where it's like my memory is kind of hazy with this to where I don't really remember it. That kind of a thing.
It'll not even just that. It would have to be like he would have to bring up like, hey, Oscorp relocated? And not a necessarily what's Oscorp? You'd be, did Oscorp relocate? Like this big tower, like rebuild Avengers Tower is now Oscorp.
I mean, to me, that's the only thing I wonder is how, if they're going to do a Norman Osborn, how do they introduce him? And also the thing that I kind of think is going to be unique to see is Sony, a part of this deal, going to suggest villains that are different than the video game? Because in the thing about the video game we got for Spider-Man, Negative Man, Kingpin, Black Cat was in it. I'm trying to think of other villains off my head, but basically villains that we've seen. You know what? That's kind of a lie because Vulture was in it. And Vulture was in the movie.
Was the Scorpion in it too?
Scrap that idea. Yeah, Scorpion was too.
I mean, we got a hint at Scorpion, but we didn't actually get Scorpion.
Yeah, and I mean, we know the next game is going to be, spoiler alert, Venom and Green Goblin because of the post-credit scene in that. But for me, I wonder if they're going to do a Norman Osborn, how would they introduce him? But that's who I want Avengers Tower to become, is Oscorp, not the Fantastic Four, because I think an Oscorp Tower moves the story of Spider-Man along, but it might kill a Fantastic Four kind of conjoined universe. So I can see why there's both sides. Last thing I want to throw up about this, and I know I've said last time for about the 3 times, I feel like I'm Dutch from Red Dead Redemption. One more score, Johnny. But the last thing I got to throw in, because I've got to do it, how hard, all of you, did you cry when close the suitcase and you see BFP?
I honestly didn't notice it until you pointed it out to me.
Franklin Parker, I was like, holy crap, that's our... Because to me, I was like, holy crap, that's our first reference. First true reference.
To Uncle Ben.
Uncle Ben. The first one that solidifies him in the universe. However, I am upset that on the passport for Peter, they don't have his middle name there.
Benjamin.
Yeah, they don't have Ben there. Why not have Benjamin there? Go full into the Uncle Ben-ness. Go full into it.
Semantics.
I also saw one comment that was funny, and you might not get this because you're not a sports guy, Johnny. But in the background, the little pennant that's on the wall says Piazza, he was a famous player for the Mets. Someone commented and was like, yeah, I think that this Peter Parker is way too young to have remembered Mike Piazza because he was a baseball player like when we were kids in the 90s, 2000s. He goes, it should be David Wright unless it's a present from Uncle Ben. I'm like, really? We're going to play that much semantics when it comes to this? Like, we're going to dip in that hard? Just let it be a Mets thing on the wall because it's New York and he's a kid from Queens. Just let it be. Any final thoughts before we move on into some Ghostbusters?
To add to that, yeah, it probably was a gift from Uncle Ben then.
Probably. That's why he would hang it up still.
Yeah, exactly. But yeah, I mean, wasn't matter. It's a Mets thing.
Yeah, it doesn't
Someone
matter.
actually looking into it, whatever.
To me, it does not matter whatsoever. But this is where you guys come in. Let us know what you think down below in that comment section. What did you think about the trailer? What did you think about anything that we talked about in this one? Because Johnny, we probably went a good almost 40 minutes talking about some Spider-Man Far From Home. We cannot wait for it. Cannot wait to see more of it and talk about it because we love to do so.